You can see it from the title. The talks are about to begin with Eze's contract deal. But there's questions about it. Will he sign it? Should he sign it? With not that long left till his contract expires. But also, look, positive reports on that aspect. And also Franca. He's back in training. So we'll be discussing him and more. Let's get started with Palace News. What is going on, people? Welcome to Live Palace News. It's been a few days. He's been quiet in Palace side of things, but today, massive story from numerous reporters about Eze's new potential deal. Palace want to start the talks as soon as possible, and it does make sense with his contract due to expire relatively soon. But as always, before we get started, if you're watching on replay, make sure to leave down your thoughts on what we talk about today, especially with Eze's contract, in the comment section down below. And let's smash the likes, people. Let's try to get at least 100 likes as always, and get involved as well, sending in your thoughts and questions throughout the show. Look, hopefully you've all had a great day. Brighton definitely haven't, but I'll be in their position than our position. The game's still going on, but they're losing 3-2 at home in the first Europa League game against an opposition where you would expect them to beat. Struggling against low block teams, but here we are. Look, they've got Ajax and Marseille in their group, and they've got Athens as well, and they're losing against Athens, and you'd expect them to be that side. So positive in that aspect, and also positive in terms of the latest reports with Ebbs. And look, France is back in training as well. Roy shaking hands with him, so that's good to see as well. So overall, it's been a good day as a Palace fan, rather than what's been happening in the last few days with all the injury updates. But look, let's get started with the first bit of news today, people. If you have any questions, send them in by putting a Q dot before your question, and I will answer them throughout the show and send in your comments as well on what we talk about. So the latest report today was suggesting, it came out in the afternoon, that Crystal Palace are set to open contract talks with Eberechi Eze over a new deal. That initially came from the TPG podcast, but later on, Fabrizio Romano and David Ornstein are confirming it as well. So it is set to happen, but there's questions about it. And here we are to talk and discuss whether, one, he will accept the new deal, and two, should he accept the new deal? Of course, we can talk about as Palace fans, but I think Eze has a lot of power in these latest sets of negotiations due to all the hype around them. Mitch saying, speaking of Europe, I know D won't be happy, but Wilf had a good appearance in Champions League, got an assist that saved the point. Yeah, overall, I'll be honest, despite them getting a point, I was actually happy about the game because I think that was piss poor from them. I expected them to beat Copenhagen, but they didn't. Chris saying needs £100,000 a week. Chris, look, let's talk about it. I don't think money will be an issue. I don't think that's why Eze will or won't sign a new deal. Of course, it will play a part to it, but I think Ebbs has a lot of power as well. In terms of whether he needs to sign a new deal at Palace. Look, his contract is due to expire relatively soon. And he has got an upper power in terms of that because, he doesn't necessarily need to sign a new deal. If he wants to, technically, he can leave on a free. I don't think Palace will ever let him go into that situation, but in terms of the contract situation, it expires in 2025. So we got this season and next season. So essentially 2 summers. And let's be honest, it doesn't quite work like that. If he doesn't sign a new deal, then there needs to be serious consideration into selling him in this upcoming summer window. Because you can't lose Eze for free. You just simply can't lose a talent like that. So I think the timing of this contract, the new self-talks or what Palace want to do is starting at a good time now that the season has begun. As he's been playing for England, done fantastically ever since Roy's come in. And 2 is so important. These next few months is going to be crucial because it could change in terms of what we want to do. Not in January necessarily. I don't think we'll sell Ebbs regardless if he wants to sign a new deal or not in January. But next summer, if he doesn't agree to a new deal over the next few months, or let's say it's coming to January, February, and we're still going on about these contract talks, and he doesn't want to stay at Palace, then you have a massive situation, a proper situation in terms of thinking about selling Eze in less than 12 months. And it won't be a simple case of selling him. You will have to find replacements as well. So it is a vital moment, this, for both the club and Eze. And let's be honest, does Eze need to sign a new deal at Palace? I think, one, let's look at the positives. Look, he's been a great player even before he came to Palace at QPR as well, and that's why we bought him. But Eze wasn't who he is right now. He was never going to play for England at QPR. We managed to bring him into an environment which helped him thrive. He had an injury as well. It seemed like there's a lot of support around him. He seemed like he's actually enjoying playing his football at Palace. He said that numerous times under Roy as well. So there are positives of staying for Palace. But then again, we know that there are also links to other top 6 clubs. Man City, yes, they bought Nunes, but I'm pretty sure that they could potentially be interested in him again. Tottenham is one that I'm looking at. And Eze could potentially join these teams for free if he doesn't sign a new deal. Or we will have to sell him next summer for a price which might not be in the same region as we would have got this summer. But still, we could get a very good price. And that's why these talks, whatever happens between now and, next summer, is going to be very important. Because if he doesn't sign a new deal, I'm saying sell Eze. As much as it hurts, I just can't risk him losing for free. And, in January, next January, not this January, next January, if he still doesn't sign a new deal, he'll go for peanuts. So if we want to get the most out of him, we need him to sign a new deal. But what plan can we sell, and can we sell a plan? Let me know in the comment section. I'll be going through the comments right now. Patrick is saying, no, he shouldn't for himself, because once Parish gets him to sign on a long-term deal, he's done as getting a move, and he'll be like Zaha now as a Palace signing. Then again, Patrick, at least he signed a new deal, 4-year deal, not a 1 or 2, 4-year deal. So a way of maybe making Eze sign a new deal at Palace, it might have to be a release clause situation, which we've seen with Elise as well. It might have to be that we put a very good release clause, but not an unrealistic one, such as £150 million. And like that, maybe we can sell it to him. And if we do have, let's say, a release clause of about £70 million for Eze, I think it works for all parties. If it means that he stays at Palace and signs a new deal, because we keep his value, and we can tie him to a new deal. 2, he'll get a pay increase whilst knowing that there is a chance of him being snapped up by top clubs for a very good fee, and I think that fee would be an ideal situation for Eze. Now, in 1 or 2 years' time, he might turn into, let's say, a £90 million player, but still, £70 million is very good money. So if we can at least agree to a release clause, maybe he would want to stay like that. But as of right now, let's be honest, the power is not in Palace's hands. It's all in Ebbs' hands. It depends on what he wants to do. He can simply say, I don't even want to talk about the contract situation. I want it to run out as it is right now, and I can see the interest that I'm going to get maybe next summer or in January. Then we can start discussing it. He can do that. He has all the power in the world, because he knows that the club are not in a position of strength in terms of how much is left in his contract. It's only till not next summer, the following summer. We've got this season, and at the end of next season, he'll be a free agent. And we can't use him as a free agent. And he would know that. His agents would know that as well. So it depends on what Ebbs wants as well. That's why it's going to be interesting to see how these talks progress. Of course, these talks are not going to finalize in, let's say, a day or two. It is going to probably take a few months before we find out exactly what's going on. But the most interesting thing for me will be to see how much Eze wants to stay at Palace and what it will keep him to stay at Palace. Because I don't think only wages, increase in wages, will help him stay. I think you need to be ideally including a release clause so he has an opportunity to join a top club for a very good price as well. Look, let me go through some of the comments and see what everyone else is saying as well. Henry said Ebbs will sign a new contract. I'm sure of it. It suits both parties, means we won't lose him for cheap, and gives him a better option to leave if he wants to. Signing a new deal doesn't give you a better option to leave. The only way that works in favor of Eze is if he has a favorable release clause which teams could activate, and that's how he could leave. Because I mean, if Eze signs a 4-year deal with no release clause, then the power all falls into Palace's hands rather than Eze's hands. But then again, staying at Palace is not the worst case scenario as well for Eze, because it has worked out for him, and he is an England player now, and he should be an England regular playing for Palace. So it has worked in his favour as well. It's not like it's been an awful move. It's helped him out a lot. But then again, he might have bigger ambitions. Then look, we talk about bigger ambitions. We thought Elise right now would be at Chelsea. He essentially turned down an opportunity at Chelsea to stay at Palace. So maybe these players don't always think the grass is greener. And we've seen it with other talented players that go to, bigger clubs, and all of a sudden they get lost. They're not getting selected as often. And then they're on the bench. They lose confidence. So it's not a simple case of Eze leaving and everything being great. That could be the situation. But I'm pretty sure Eze will most likely think about, the pros and cons of leaving Palace as well. Mitch saying, if he signs a longer-term contract, I imagine it will be with release clause or conditional release. Sibs saying, I think he'll sign a 1-year extension so that we can sell him for more in the summer. Potentially. But then again, Sibs, why would he, unless we give crazy wages, what benefit does a 1-year extension do to Eze? I don't know. It doesn't really do him any favors. If he wants to stay at Palace, then it should be longer than a year. It should be like 3 to 4 years. That means that he would want to stay. And if he doesn't want to stay and he's asking for a year extension, then clearly his heart is not set at Palace. So it might be better off just selling him as soon as possible, such as next summer. I think that's the most realistic date. Mitch saying, really, there are so many contract details that we'll never hear about, so it's hard to analyze too deeply. Bollock saying, can we have a moment's laughter for the Scum Legion to Eagles again, please? Yeah, they lost 3-2. Funny because everyone thought like they're world beaters, and they were that they're gonna go unbeaten, and De Zerbi is like Pep Guardiola, and all of a sudden a low block done them as well. So yeah, look, that team over down the south, they couldn't even sell out the game. I heard ticket was still available. It's just the club that's happening to. I mean, it couldn't happen to a worse club. With all due respect, Red saying, we were going to pay Will for £200,000 a week, so that can be split between him and Elise. Yeah, Red, I think we have got the money, and that's why we gave Elise a new deal as well. So there should be a bit of money there for him to get on, nice wages, which I think he deserves. I think Elise deserves that as well, based on his current ability and also potential as well. Because right now, Eze is a class Premier League player. Not for Crystal Palace, but in the whole Premier League. He is a very good playmaker. A very good playmaker, still young, getting selected for England. So it's not just Palace that would want Eze. Majority of these Premier League clubs would love to have Eze in their team. So in terms of wages, 100% give him the money. But then again, other teams can offer it as well. So I don't think it will just be the money factor. It depends on his ambitions. What does he want for his career? Does he want to play in the Champions League sooner rather than later? Some people do. Some people don't mind waiting a few more years before getting that big move. It depends on what he wants. The power is in Eze's court right now. He's 25. He got to move like Rice, says Social. Let me know if you guys agree that he has to move like Rice because of his age. I think he's still fairly young. He doesn't have to move now, but yeah, he needs to make decisions sooner rather than later, I guess. Maybe Eze likes it here. Red, that's a very good point as well. Maybe he does, because I think the Elise news was the biggest surprise to every single Palace fan. And it's a day that I'll never forget. The fact that he said no to Chelsea to stay at Crystal Palace was a shock. Not a shock to the football world, but a shock to Palace fans as well. Because at times we talk about Palace, in a way that, yes, we're not a big club, but we also have something going on behind the scenes as well that would make the likes of Eze or, for example, Elise want to stay. And sometimes we sleep on our own potential. But then again, does Eze have the same amount of, the same views towards the club as Elise does? If he does, then he will sign a new deal. But if he doesn't, then he'll move on. Evan saying, I think Elise signing a new deal is the only reason this is in the conversation. Yeah, I agree. I think Elise staying at the club is one of the biggest reasons, because I think it's changed a whole perspective on how we think players see Palace as well. Some players will still not want to join Palace for various different reasons, but from what we've been hearing is that there's a good culture at Palace, not only from the people that's running the club or people behind the scenes that in the knows, but the players themselves. Eze has preached it many times. He has given credit to Vieira as well, but Roy Hodgson has installed that culture of fighting togetherness. We saw it. We saw it against Aston Villa. Even against Villa. I know we lost the game, but we were fighting for the badge. We were out there putting our bodies on the line, fighting for the badge. And that goes down from the management. And it seems like these players do want to play for Palace. But then again, some players might want more. And I understand that based on their ability. Chris saying £100,000 a week, England caps, South London, who could want more? Cody also saying as long as Elise is set on staying for a bit longer, I see Eze staying with him. Hopefully that's a positive for Ebbs to sign a new deal, which I think it will play a part because it's a big statement from Elise staying at Palace. And I've said it many times. I think we're not too far off in terms of starting 11 to be a serious starting 11. Maybe, one or two more attackers and a right back. And I think our starting 11 squad is very good, where these players would want to play European football. That's the massive thing that, Brighton have right now. That's why Ansu Fati joined Brighton, because, today he played in Europa League and he still lost that game, so hold that L. But, they have that positive factor to it. So if we do strengthen the one or two positions that we need, I don't think personally we're that far off European spots. I don't think it sounds wild right now, but I don't think so. We do need to strengthen some positions, but then again, it depends on the ambitions of the club. If we do show a bit of ambition, then these players would want to stay. So it depends on what the club sell as well. It's not just money. I'll say this over and over again. What can Steve Parish and Dougie Freedman sell to Eze to say, stay at this club, let's go for it? Can they actually sell him that plan? If they can, Eze would be, I guess, more than tempted to stay at Palace because we have got some decent players. But you have to sell that ambition because, let's be honest, with Wilf, he stayed for a while, but he wanted to leave a long time ago. And Vieira, I think Vieira coming into the club, the type of football that we played kept him at the club. But at the end of it, he didn't end up staying at Palace because, yes, of course, Galatasaray playing in the Champions League, but maybe he just didn't feel that the ambitions were matched because he's been at Palace a long time. So we need to make sure we sell that plan. He's on £30,000 a week now. That's the incentive to sign a year extension, in my opinion, getting to £100,000 a week potentially. Yeah, nice little pay rise from £30,000 to £100,000 a week. Red saying Dougie did some good scouting with those two. 100% he did. But if we want to talk about Dougie, there's also some question marks as well. I've backed Dougie a lot. No one can doubt me about me backing Dougie. I've backed him a lot. But when we haven't strengthened some of the positions that, we've needed to strengthen, and we brought in another goalkeeper, there are some question marks about that as well. Because in terms of replacement, we haven't entered that territory yet. We haven't lost one of our key young players yet. But from the short sample size that we're seeing, replacement seems like it's kind of an issue. And that's what I'm a bit nervous about with Dougie, which we'll see over time. Look, Wan-Bissaka, so I haven't replaced him. And yeah, so there are some question marks about priorities and replacements in terms of Dougie, but I think it's overall done a very good job anyways. No one's brilliant. And Mitch saying we'll look at where Chelsea are right now. Exactly, we're still above them in the league, which is kind of crazy considering the injuries that we have as well. Where's the video of France and meeting the players? Thanks. I'll show you the picture of him shaking Roy's hands. He's back at the training pitch, so which is very good to see, which we'll talk about in just a few minutes time. If you're enjoying the stream, make sure to smash the like button, people. There's about over 60 people here. It just takes a second of your time. If everyone can smash it, helps the algorithm, helps us grow the channel and do more content as well. So it's much appreciated. Thanks to every single one of you. And also after this, make sure to check out the match preview where we discuss the Fulham game in depth and also talk about whether Mateta will or should start against Fulham. We're on 20 likes right now. I know we can hit 50 likes, people. So let's get the likes up. Social saying with all the spending this season, there won't be crazy fees again of Rice and Caicedo. You will also have to factor his age. He'll be 26 by summer. He ain't at the status of 70 to 80 million pound player. Do you agree? Do you agree, chat? Do you agree that he's not 70 to 80 million? I think he is. If he's not 70, he's 60 at least. But he's around that range, 100%. Personally, based on his talent, he's not even in his prime year. He's going to enter his peak years, and he's good as it is right now. And with English tax as well, I think he's worth tons of money. But yeah, I paid 60p for my first Palace game. That must be about God knows when, that 30, 40 years ago. I can't imagine a game being 60p. Even cup games nowadays are like 15, 20 pounds. I'm saying 26 is prime age. If he continues his form, he'll be 80 million pounds. So how much do we think he's worth right now? Because Red is saying he's definitely 80 million pounds, but it seems like some people, saying that he's worth a bit less. So how much do we think Eze is worth right now? Let us know in the chat. And whilst you do that, I'm going to try to bring up the photos because someone wants to see Franca photos, and I don't blame them one bit because I enjoyed watching Matheus Franca, be back on a training pitch as well. We'll go and show the photos. But let me know in chat, how much do we think right now Eze is worth? I'm surprised. I thought more people would have said 70 to 80 million pounds, but clearly some people think he's worth a bit less, which I'm curious to see how much. He's worth 65 million. Siv says 60 to 65. He's worth 80 minimum. It says interesting. So we're ranging about 20 million pound there. For me, yeah, I think he's in the 65, 70s. I don't think quite yet 80. But yeah, I think 60 to 80, that's the price range. But realistically, I think 60 to 70 is where you can potentially strike a deal right now. For him to reach that 80 level, I think he needs a bit more production in terms of his goals and assists. We'll see what he gets this season, but I think him and Elise have brilliant connection together, and it sometimes goes under the radar. When Elise comes back, I think Eze is going to get more goals and assists. We saw it last year as well. They were fantastic, and Elise, getting 11 assists, it wasn't a fluke. It was their partnership. 100 mil if he signed a longer contract, says Tim. 80. It's interesting. 80, 70, 100 is the most, but I think we can all agree he's not definitely worth less than 60 million pounds. And let's be honest, if we were to get 60 million pounds for Eze, that's still a fantastic bit of business, considering how much we got him for. The fact that we developed this player in a few years to turn him, into 60 million pound worth of player. And he's not the only player as well, which is very good. We've got so many other players that's in that high price range. Decore, of course, that we rate highly. Gehi, Anderson, not on the same level as the players that I mentioned, but also him profit. There's a lot of players we can profit on, which is good to see that if we needed that cash, if we needed to reinvest, then we have got players to swap over and see. England international scored 10 last season, 90 mil. Interesting. If Eze hits back of the net more, I'll back 80 million pound. Neil saying Palace don't seem to change now. Zaha's gone. We pin all our hopes on Ebbs. If he gets injured, oh dear, who else we got to create? Not a lot, let's be honest. Right now, if Eze was to get injured, we are finished. We are finished. We are in the mud, deep down, stuck in the mud. Because honestly, the creative options with Elise being out, France we don't know about yet, is basically non-existent. So we need to make sure we wrap Eze around, whatever paper to make sure he doesn't have any injuries. Because literally, he's our only creative player. But once players come back from injury, I think that creativity will spread naturally with Elise, especially coming to the side. He got 11 assists last year, so that'll be normal. Sib saying Mount had 1 year left on his contract. Madison was relegated. They all detract from transfer value. Exactly. That's why we will have to make a decision in the next few months about what we want to do with Eze. Because if he doesn't agree new deal and comes next summer, then we will most likely have to sell him. That's the harsh reality of the game. We can't let him go to the final season of him running down his deal and potentially losing for half his value, around 40 to 50. I think that would be a massive disappointment. So the club, let's look. Replacements, I said, and also selling. There are two factors. I think Balassi, for example, that was a very good transfer business there. There was the fact that we saw Balassi. Wan-Bissaka was a good business as well. But there are two uncertainties that we haven't yet delved into as a football club. Can we be a proper selling football club? And can we reinvest that money and improve the squad as it goes? We don't know yet. No one can say yes. No one can say no. There are small sample size of, as I said, 2 players, but overall, we really haven't been a great selling club. It's not something that we've excelled at right now. No one rates Ayew, says Zach. I think a lot of people rate Ayew this season. But yeah, Neil says exactly that. D, you and me think the same. Yeah, we do. Ball. I'm joking. Everyone's got their own opinions. I'm not saying if Eze got injured right now, would have to rely on Schlupp for creativity. Jeez Louise. Oh my days. I don't even want to think about that. with all due respect, relying on Jeffrey Schlupp for creativity. Jeez, God forbid that day ever comes across. Let's just hope for our sake, or for my sake, anyways, that we don't have to rely on Jeffrey Schlupp for creativity, because I think we'll be in the mud. But look, here's the photos. Let's talk about Matheus Franca now. As you can see from the title, he has returned to training. Funny enough, I mentioned it before. Roy has, at the start, anyways. I don't know. Recently, he's referred to him as the Brazilian player. So it's good to see that Roy has seen this Brazilian player, Franca. As you can see, he got that number 11. That's my number 11 now. We have paid a heavy price tag for him. So it's not going to be easy for him as well, because I think there will be a pressure, of course, with the added Ballon d'Or fee. But I think there's one more photo for Franca. Let's just see. It might be down there. But look, he's back. He's back in. Well, I'm saying back, but he's training. He's training. He's out on the training pitch. He met Roy today as well. It's good to see Roy there, with the squad. We saw it yesterday. I think yesterday or the day before, I said on Palace News that I think it was Tuesday that he's back with the squad. Now it's about building his fitness. People. And I meant to say, hopefully Roy has learned his name now. I think he knows his name now. Hopefully he doesn't refer him as a Brazilian boy, because it's a bit funny, but a bit worrying at the same time as well. Now it's about patience. Realistically, Fulham, rat off. Don't even think about it. I don't think. I'll do forfeit if he was involved with Fulham. But I don't think he'll be involved in a Fulham game. United, probably too soon. Both United games, maybe. He hasn't played football in a while. He just, joined Palace, hasn't had any appearances. And what doesn't help him is that Roy hasn't seen him in pre-season. And I think that's his biggest downfall, because it would have been nice of Roy to see him. Of course, Roy likes to use the players that he knows well, that he knows that are, reliable. So I think it's going to have to be bench appearances. But yeah, I would love him to be involved for United games, because I think it will add something different, United, especially in terms of creativity, if Eze is there on the pitch. And it'll be exciting as well, going into a cup game with, young Brazilian flair player, returning back from an injury. That'll be lovely. But I just don't see Palace rushing him. Maybe we haven't rushed him. Maybe he is ready now. Maybe he could have technically joined a bit sooner, but we just didn't want to rush him. Maybe that is the case. And maybe Franca is ready now. But I guess only time will know. Roy's press conference tomorrow will be interesting to see what he says about the situation and whether he'll have any involvement. But my guess is I don't think he'll be involved at all against Fulham. Franca, 11, Neymar 2.0. See, that's what I'm saying. The expectations are already there. So forward looking to seeing Ebbs, Elisa, Franca on the same pitch. Hopefully that happens, because it sounds exciting on paper anyways. Neil saying, I know boys go away on international duty, they'll get injured as much as I like it. This is what happens. Lerma, Gahey. Yeah, it's normal. It's unfortunate. Not every player gets injured, of course, but the international break didn't really help us. We could have continued with the form that we were in before the international break, having Gahey injury-free, Lerma injury-free. And I'll be honest, look at today. Villa lost 3-2 in the Europa Conference League. They're in the Conference League, right? Or was it the Europa League? I saw bits of the game, but there were so many games on today. Well, they're in the Conference League, right? Aston Villa. They're in the Conference League, and they weren't that great. And I'll say this: if we had a full, strong 11, we would have got a result against Villa, at least a point. I think we would have even got the win. The simple case of that. We just didn't have the players. We had a few players out injured. Even if you had Gay Lerma, I think that improves our chances massively as well. Zach saying he'll probably get a few under 21 matches, which I think would be the right move as well to build up some fitness. But Amit saying I just can't survive much longer watching Schlupp start left wing, so I'm hoping he's not too far off. The problem I have with this, I'm going to wrap up in just a second, people. But if you're enjoying this, if you're just joining it now, make sure to check out the start of the stream as well. We talk about Eze, and also now we're talking about Franca. And hit the like button, people. Let's try to get at least 100 likes and keep the channel growing. Really appreciate every single one of you. And check out the match preview after this as well. The problem I have with Schlupp, at the start of the season, still the start of the season. But in the first few games, it was a case of, what is he doing? And then I noticed a trend in the Villa game, and it raised questions. Is this guy even fit enough to play 90 minutes of football? Forget about ability. Is he even fit enough? He looked gassed, just absolutely knackered. not towards the end of the game, but 60 minutes into the game, 65 minutes into the game, I was watching him, and he looked like he just wanted to not be on the pitch. And this is a real concern. Forget about the ability. This guy is not ready to play 90 minutes games. And maybe that's why he has been getting subbed off. I don't know how he survived 90 minutes against Villa. There are options off the bench. Yes, you might say they're not as good enough or they don't have the experience, but he just doesn't look fit. He just doesn't look fit at all. And that's something that needs to be looked at by the football club. What is the minimum requirements? Because surely there should be something about it. He just looks, stamina just, it seems like it's non-existent. He looks like, I don't know, just out on the pitch this season. It just doesn't look the same. But Zach saying, I don't know what blackmail Schlupp has on Roy, obviously Ahmada or Gyro. Ahmada makes more sense because Ahmada actually had a decent preseason. So why is he not getting more opportunities? Mitch saying, I can only assume that Roy wants Schlupp to cover a reserve role, otherwise he wouldn't be playing every game. Yeah, I think the best option is to have Schlupp coming off the bench because I don't think it's even fit enough to play 90 minutes of football. And I agree, Chris, he looks a bit chunky as well. And Zach saying, good shout D, his body language reminded me of Wilf when he wasn't getting the ball, either attitude or fitness. I think his fitness is not even attitude. I just don't think he can run. From the games I watched him, I didn't really focus about his fitness. I talked about what can he do, but now it all adds up. I just don't think he's fit enough to play 90 minutes of football. And if a player is not fit enough to play 90 minutes of football, preferably, especially if they're not doing well in the minutes that they do play, it's just bench time. And I think that should be the case for Schlupp because right now it's not really a good look. 5 games into the season and there's been a very, very poor start for him. And it's saying doesn't matter the manager, Schlupp has blackmail on all of them. I do think he gained weight over the summer as well. So interesting, a few people are suggesting that as well. But yeah, he shouldn't be starting. But we talk about that. We talk about that in the match preview. Where if you haven't watched it yet, now is a perfect time because I'm going to wrap it up. Make sure to click on the pinned comment to go and straight away direct you to the match preview. But if you have enjoyed this, make sure to hit the like button and subscribe. People, we'll probably be back tomorrow talking about Roy's press conference. See if he has a few more updates on injuries and how he's feeling as well. That'll be interesting to hear. Look, that's it from me. Hopefully you all keep safe. And until next time, up the Palace.